Springboks stole the World Cup from South Africa, according to French scrum half Maxime Lucu.
Yes,
That's the program.
Whatever this is, yes.
Whatever this is.
This is the Big Jim Show.
What a game. I've picked this out as the game of the weekend. Some might say I should have gone for Scotland versus New Zealand, which we'll talk about at the end of this, but this is a heavyweight clash between two of the best teams in the world. In the great Springboks World Cup champions against France in Paris, a repeat of that 2023 World Cup quarter-final, which was 1 point difference. As we know, South Africa won that game and France lost, and the hearts were broken. But this is a heavyweight clash. I mentioned two of the best teams in the world. France actually are the fifth best team in the world. So Springboks are number one and France are number five. But some and many, me included, beg to differ that they're the fifth best team in the world. I think they are one of the current form teams in the world. Many consider the French team the best team in the Northern Hemisphere. I do as well. This is a match between Six Nations champions and Rugby Championship champions. And a little bit of background, if I may. Big shout out to producer Charlie for this, or researcher Charlie. He might be a producer one day, but they've played each other 45 times. France have won 12, South Africa have won 27. There's been 6 draws. So South Africa have dominated this contest in recent years, and obviously the headline one, the most recent one, the last time they played was the World Cup in 2023, which was absolutely epic. But it's been 7 months as well for this French team since they've actually played properly together. They went to New Zealand in the summer tour. They took a second string team, really, really impressive. And as we know, that this South African team are battle hardened off the back of a tough rugby championship. They play a lot of rugby together and they're used to being on these tours. So emotionally going into the game, you've got the French who've been waiting for this game for a long, long time. They're without their star player in Antoine Dupont, who's still coming back from an ACL injury, against the battle-hardened Springbok team that are on the road. But as we know, on their day, the Springboks can beat anyone. Let's get into it. The big matchups, there's loads. I want to start with the back three. Damien Penaud, Louis BLBRA versus Cheslin Colby and Curtly Arendse. 4 of the best wingers in the world, hands down. They'd be the top 4. Yes, there'd be a couple of the All Blacks. Tommy Freeman, he's playing 13. Let's be honest, these are the 4 best wingers in the world, and they're up against each other in Paris on Saturday night. Very different in their style of approach, especially Damien Penaud. You could argue that Louis BLBRA is very similar to Cheslin Colby, who is very similar to Curtly Arendse. I'm looking forward to seeing that. For me, Louis BLBRA is, out of them 4, top 1 or 2. It'd be the top 1 or 2. His top speed is 23.5 miles an hour, absolutely rapid. 12 tries in 8 games for France in 2024-25. Cheslin Colby got 3 tries in the Rugby Championship this year, and as we know, is a proven performer at the highest level. And I think when you look at these 4 wingers, it kind of marries up with how you expect the game is going to go, that there's not going to be a big aerial threat. You look at the way that England have made up their team, the Australians are made up now, what Scotland have picked for their team, not picking Duhan van der Merwe, because there's going to be a kick-in part of that game. Yes, both teams obviously kick, but they're not made up to kick. They're made up to run, they're made up to play, they're made up to counter-attack. Hence these 4 wingers, why they're the best in the world, they're the best in the business at playing like that. You could argue that you should maybe play a kicking game against them, but Cheslin Colby can defuse any bomb that goes up in the air. But as well as the wingers, you've got Thomas Ramos versus Damien Willemse, very different. Ramos is a better kicker, especially off the tee. He is a kicker. He kicks off the tee, 113 points in 8 games for France last season, and he's got a 90% kick success in the Six Nations, I think it was. So kicking is his strength, obviously attacking as well. He can play at 10. He's a fantastic player, can play 10 or 15 as we know, but Romain Ntamack is back and he's a brilliant player. But Thomas Ramos, massive fan of him. Damien Willemse is probably more of a threat with ball in hand, very physical, very fast, very direct. He's South African, okay, so that's what you expect from a 15 as well. But they're littered with quality across the back 3, and it's great to see. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else out of the 2 back 3s that aren't playing that we would like to have seen. Villiers, maybe for France, big fan of him. No, this is who we wanted to see. So big matchups in the back 3 for sure. Let's have a look at the fly halves. Romain Ntamack versus Sasha Feinberg Mngumezulu, who is absolutely worldly at the minute. Haven't seen a huge amount of Romain Ntamack, but as we know, he is a world-class player, top performer for Toulouse. That relationship that he has with Anton Dupont, that everyone's looking forward to seeing, that we're not getting to see, but two brilliant attack-minded fly halves. You know, I heard about Sasha Feinberg, Gumazulu, and I was like, right, okay, looks good, well balanced. This guy's a superstar, and he is going to be a superstar. They found their 10 going forward for the future. And these are the days where not the greats are made, but these are the days where, how good are you? You're in Paris, you're up against France, they're desperate for the win, you're up against a very, very good back line. There's going to be attacking threats all over the place. Defensively, you're going to have to make big tackles as well with the size of some of the French players that we'll name when we talk about the Giants and the physicality. So the battle of the fly halves, the fact that Thomas Ramos can take that kick in away from Romain Ntamack as well, and he's a brilliant kicker. But Sasha Feinberg, Gumazulu, we're going to find out how good this kid is at the weekend in Paris. Battle of the back row is really interesting, always is interesting as well. And there's a few shout-outs, and there's one big shout-out when we talk about the back rows. But Paul Boudinot versus Pieter-Steph du Toit, arguably the best forward in the world. Pieter-Steph du Toit, as we know, unbelievable experience, but Boudinot, I hope I said his name right, but he's a wicked player for La Rochelle. He's 25, he's young, he's in great form in the top 14. His stats are through the roof, his contact meters, post-contact meters, tackle completion, and he's been brilliant for France as well. Kind of under the radar as well. They've had a few injuries in the back row. Anthony Gillon has been injured, and he's been kind of back in. He's back in this weekend, and he's a wicked player for them as well. No Gregory Aldry, which is a surprise, hasn't been playing very well for La Rochelle. La Rochelle haven't been going well this season, but to not have him in the team kind of just changes the dynamics somewhat, because when I look at the South African back row with Jasper Wiese, massive fan, friend of the show, Pieter-Steph du Toit, friend of the show as well, you've got two world-class players. Talking of world-class, the great Siya Kolisi, 100 caps for the mighty Springboks. I played the game in 2013 when Siya Kolisi made his debut, came off the bench. One of the back rows got injured. He came on. I think I'd just been sin-binned for fighting Eben. And I remember watching this lad. I was like, wow. Just quietly went about his business. But you could see the interactions and the love from his fellow teammates. Clearly a really young lad coming through. And he got man of the match that day. And literally, you couldn't say this about many players. Literally, the rest is history. Literally. You know, he has made history upon history. Phenomenal human being. Brilliant captain. Has transcended the game. Has transformed the game in South Africa. He is a celebrity. He is an icon. He's a beacon of hope. And he's getting a shout out because 100 caps for the Springboks. It was always going to happen. I actually thought it would come sooner for him, but he's been through a lot on and off the pitch, and I'm a Siya Kolisi fan. What can I say? You know, for that emotional touch point alone, the Springboks will want to beat France. Yes, they'll want to beat France, but on Siya Kolisi's 100th cap, he'll run out into the stadium, and he'll be a player where every single man, woman, and child will be on their feet celebrating the great Siya Kolisi. And that emotion for South Africa, not that they need it, might just temper the French emotion, because everything you're reading, everything you're hearing, everything you're seeing, that this is the game. The redemption story for the French against South Africa. As we know, well, I was there. I was there at the game. I was pitch side for that game. And the emotion in France, in Paris, was just taken out by the Springboks, effectively. They killed off the World Cup in France. Let's talk about two giants that are going to be going up against each other. Emmanuel Moafol, Emmanuel Miafu, Oh My Moafol versus Eben Etzebeth. So Eben Etzebeth, 138 caps. He's at that end of his career. Emmanuel Miafu is at that stage of his career, and they're coming together hard and big and physical. And I'm there for it. You know, Eben Etzebeth, we don't need to say much about him. You know what he's bringing. But Emmanuel Miafu, how important he is for France, how important he is for Toulouse when they've won Champions Cups and they've been on this dominant run in the top 14 as well. Everything revolves around him. He's one of these freak of a players like a Will Skelton, like an Eben Etzebeth, that if you're in trouble, you just get on the front foot. Quick ball, you can come up with a plan, And the only team that probably would have a decent plan that could activate that plan against someone of that size is South Africa. So the physical confrontation is going to be naturally unbelievable because of the way that the two teams play, the speed in which they play, and the way that the two teams are made up going into this. So as well as the physical battle, the one thing that stands out as well is the experience across the two teams. Almost double the amount of caps that South Africa have, 1,101, thank you, Charlie, to 588 for the French team. So the experience, the physicality versus, how do you call it, the flair, the passion. South Africa have these things as well of the French team, but you know, the inexperienced French props that I'm seeing as well, but there's no Oxenche coming off the bench. You know, the bench is interesting, actually. France have gone for a 6-2 split against South Africa, which is very unlike South Africa for a 5-3 with R.G. Snyman and guys like Andre Esterhazen coming on. So the bomb squad, which has been a turning point for South Africa in the past, looks a little bit different. Yeah, it does. I have to call it. It doesn't look, well, it's not the same as the one in 2023 that was causing absolute chaos. But as we know, France will be completely fired up. They want revenge, and they might be able to match the physicality and the directness that South Africa bring. A few things to note as well. Rassie, good on you. I think it's his 50th game as head coach. I thought he had 150. It doesn't matter. He could have 5 or 550. He's going down as one of the greatest to have ever done it as well. But a bit of online knowledge. He's like the Elon Musk, is he? He tweets a lot, is what I'm saying. That's the only comparison that I've got, and the fact that they're both South African. But he correctly predicted the French 15 on X as well, and he does a bit of trolling, doesn't he? He follows one person or one team. This week it's France. So every game that they play, he'll unfollow the last team and he'll follow the next team. So a little bit of trolling. I do like that. But big shout out to Rassie Erasmus as well. 50th game as head coach. And we know that the South Africans have a load of fans around the world. And just to note, Rassie, he loves the French. He appreciates the French. He was noted as saying they will also have a fanatical home crowd behind them, which will inspire them immensely. So we're fully aware of the magnitude of this match and we know what we have to do on the field. Look, so managing the emotions, there's no one better than Rassie. You can bring the emotions out of his team. But I keep talking about the flair and the passion and the redemption of the French. Just to note again, Anton Dupont is out. He's nearly back, just re-signed for Toulouse. Huge loss for them. Okay, has been a huge loss for them. They've done well without him, but they don't look the same without him. He is the best player in the world, if you look at it. Loss for Intermac as well that I mentioned, and this partnership now with Legarec, who, by the way, is a fantastic player, and Intermac isn't the same, doesn't look the same as Anton Dupont. I mentioned Maxime Lucu as well. He's on the bench to come on. They are littered with scrum half. Spoke to Dan Bigger about it, and he was saying, look, mate, there's no better nines in the world than in France. Like, you've got 4 or 5 worldies to come on. But yeah, France's injury list, Weenie Antonio, Cyril Bay, Pietro Malvaca as well. Probably the best front row in France would be up there with the best front row in the world. They're injured. Francois Cros, Moefana in the centre, and I mentioned Gregory Autry. So there is a different look to this French team, but it's still France in Paris. And for me, if I was to say at the start of the Autumn Nations series, who's the best team in the Northern Hemisphere, I would say France. Okay, and we did see that with the cracks that Ireland have got. Don't know what it is in Ireland. Love Ireland. Love all my Irish listeners and followers. Love going over there. But you'll be the first to say, as we saw against New Zealand, there's something not quite right. So France, for me, best Northern Hemisphere team versus the best team in the world in the Springboks. And I've got to pick a winner. And normally when I do this on the pod, I sometimes change my mind. Like last week, I picked Ireland to beat New Zealand. Then I saw the teams. I was in Chicago, got a feel for it. And then I changed and went New Zealand. And I was right. But this week, I've got to go based on the teams. I've got to go based on a little bit of feel, but chatting to people in France as well, knowing the amount of rugby that the Springboks are playing. You can see where I'm going. I think France win. I think France win this game, not comfortably. It will never be comfortable against the mighty Springboks, but you're in for an unbelievable treat. I said that before the Ireland All Blacks game, and it was a bit of a damp squib. Everything, the production around it, the in-stadium experience. The French do it right. In Paris, they do it right. Everything. So from the lighting show to the music to the, just to the fan experience. They're one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. So for anyone going to the game, it's unbelievable. Any Springbok fans watching this and having a braai and having a brandy and Coke, you'll feel it through the TV, and it's going to be a wicked game. There's so many emotional touch points around it. Sia Khaleesi, Rassie Erasmus, the French being back at home against the mighty Springboks, 2023. It's going to be epic. So I'm looking forward to that game, but I'm going to go for a France victory. Scotland versus New Zealand. When early on this, I predicted a Scotland victory. I say it every time. I know he says that all the time. It's our year, it's this, it's that. I played against the All Blacks 3 times, and as we know, because Scotland never beat the All Blacks, never won. But we never stood a chance, right? They were the best team in the world, probably the best team that's ever played. Like Aaron Smith, Dan Carter, Mar Nonu, Richie McCaw, Kieran Reid, Ali Williams, Moors Mullina, like you name it, every single superstar was playing in that era. There's a different feel to the All Blacks now. Everyone can agree. We can all agree that that's how it feels. And when I look at this Scotland team, they're balanced, they're in form, they've got world-class players. We have got world-class players. And when I look at the matchups, I'm thinking, yeah, we can do it. Genuinely, I'm not just saying that. But again, for context, for people that don't know, 32 times we've played against the All Blacks, never won. 30 wins to New Zealand, but we've drawn twice. I wasn't involved in any of them, and I don't remember the draws, so they must have been a long time ago. Last time we played was 3 years ago at Murrayfield, and it was 31 points to 23. So the gap is smaller than it used to be, for sure. How do we go into this game? Don't know. We beat the USA team, which was appalling, really, 85-0. I don't even want to talk about that game. And that was without our star players. There was no Finn Russell, Blair Kinghorn, Sione Tuipulotu, who are back this week, obviously. The headline news this week or today, or in Scotland, is Duhan van der Merwe is not playing. He's been dropped for Kyle Steyn, who's on the wing. Kyle Steyn, I'm a massive fan of, South African. I think his dad was Nelson Mandela's bodyguard. Some unbelievable story about Kyle Steyn anyway. Wicked player. All-round player, complete, suffered with injuries. Every time I've watched this lad play, he has been amazing. He's a test match animal. And when you think about the All Blacks and you think about the back three that they've got playing for them, Caleb Clark, Will Jordan, their kicking ability that they've got, they're going to need an all-rounder. Like for me, Duhan van der Merwe is one of the best players in the world going forward, but it doesn't need me to say that the defensive issues, and especially under the high ball, probably cost him a test match place in the Lions series. So that's why they've gone for Kyle Steyn, just to clear that up. He's on form. He's been banging form for Glasgow. Gregor Townsend's a massive fan of him. He's been captain of Scotland before, captain of Glasgow currently at the minute, and he's an all-round unbelievable player. You know, the matchups in this, naturally you're going to go and be like, well, where are they? Like, can we match the physicality of like Wallace Atiti in the back row with a Matt Fagerson? I think we can. You know, Wallace Atiti is an unbelievable player. You saw when he came on against Ireland, saw what he did last season. He's going to be one of the best players in the world in the next few years. He's an incredible athlete. And this is the thing when you talk about athletes. Leicester Fayanganuka, when he came on against the All Blacks at the weekend, he's been carving up in France. There's a Tuasova, Mar Nonu feel to him. When he gets the ball, anything can happen and around him. So I'm trying to look at the matchups with Scotland. I'm like, right, can we compete in the back row with the power they've got there? And that's when I mentioned the All Blacks back row. I mentioned Wallace Atiti there. I've not even mentioned Ardie Surveyor. Do you know what I mean? Or Peter Lakai. But I've not mentioned Ardie Surveyor. Unbelievable. You know, when you actually think of the quality of players that they've got now, you've got Wallace Atiti at 6, Ardie Surveyor at 7, and Peter Lakai at 8. So even though you've not got Scott Barrett, that's the thing for me. Can Scotland live with them physically? And that's why they've gone for Gregor Brown at 6. I saw Jamie Ritchie, big shout out to him, in town today. Some funny stories on Perpignan, but he's not in the squad. They've gone for Gregor Brown at 6, Matt Fagerson at 7, and Jack Dempsey at 8. So they've got a hell of a task. Hell of a task. Like, they're brilliant around the breakdown. They can stay in tackle, but then comes the laws of physics and averages. When you've got Ardie Surveyor, when you've got Peter Lakai, when you've got Wallace Atiti, Leicester Fayanganuka, actually, I still think we've got it. Everyone's talking around Finn Russell, aren't they? How good he was for the Lions. Is he the best player in the world at the minute? you couldn't argue against it, could you? And the fact that Finn Russell's on our team, Ben White's been brilliant for Scotland. It got called up by the Lions as well. That battle between Cam Roygard and Bowden Barrett, Ben White, Finn Russell, how they manage the game is going to be unbelievable. And also how they bring in the back three players like Blair Kinghorn. Brilliant player. He's back at 15 against Will Jordan, who you've probably got the best and the second best fullbacks in the world. That kicking game, you've got two very similar teams of how they kick, of how they want to play. It's going to come down to execution as well. Darcy Graham on one wing versus Caleb Clark on the other. That is beauty and the beast. Beauty being Darcy Graham from the Borders and the beast being Caleb Clark, although he's a beautiful person and a beautiful man as well. But there's matchups across the field which are going to be really exciting, and the forwards is one, specifically the back row, the breakdown, the gain line, but then bringing in the 9s and 10s, bringing in these back three players. Scotland's prides themselves on that attacking rugby, hence why they've brought in Rory Hutchinson of Northampton. Don't know where he's been. Greg has not been a fan of him for whatever reason, but now it's undeniable. Both sides of the ball, he's been a standout player in the Prem for Northampton. Physically, just doesn't look like he should be physical. And he is. And he needs to be at the weekend. So you've got a guy that is bang in form. Hugh Jones is injured. So that relationship between Finn Russell, Sione Tuipulotu and Rory Hutchinson, which hasn't played together, I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes and how we attack without Hugh Jones, because that axis there has been the best in the business, hence why when we were watching the Lions, we were surprised not to see that 10, 12, 13 axis of Scotland in there. But I have predicted a Scotland win. Obviously, it's not going to be easy. Obviously, I'm not going to be surprised if the All Blacks win, but I've got to put my name to it. And I think we've got a team now that can compete against an All Blacks team that doesn't look the same. Injuries to Geordie Barrett, injuries to Scott Barrett. Their back five doesn't look how it used to, although I've just talked up their back row. And there's losses in them. Got beat by Argentina in Argentina, heavily beat by South Africa. Question marks over the dynamics within the All Blacks group. Not me saying that. Our friends in New Zealand are saying that. Probably Australia as well and South Africa. But there's cracks. And in Scotland, there's not cracks, but it's just like, when is our time? Like, when are we going to do it? Why do we keep saying that this is our time? This is our year. This is our Six Nations. We need to start ticking off all of these milestones that's going to create a world-class environment. And we've done that by having a load of players on the British and Irish Lions tour. The other way that you do that is a statement win against the All Blacks, having just pumped US, I can't even say it, and backing up performances going into the Six Nations where it's our time. This is our year. Let's see. Scotland by 3. Right, quick note to England versus Fiji. Fiji, no walkover now. I'm going to be there for the game. Can't wait to see the Fijians play. They're everyone's second team. Everyone loves Fiji, except if you are English, because Fiji got that historic win at Allianz in 2023. Beat them comfortably. Some might say 30 points to 22. But England did go on to beat them in the quarterfinal of the World Cup, just 30 points to 24. So it's a team that England struggle against. Physically, when I've watched Fiji play England, they've struggled, okay, with the physicality. Borthwick switched it up a little bit. Maratoji's on the bench. Ellis Genge's starting. Chandler Cunningham South at 8, who I'm a big fan of. Thought he might have started last week, but he's not. He's starting this week at 8. They've moved Finn Smith to 10. Ollie Lawrence is back at 13. Marcus Smith's at 15. But I think they've got Chandler Cunningham South in for the physicality. I've not seen the Fiji team yet. I imagine Bill Matter, who's at Bristol, who was at Edinburgh, will be starting at 8. Very similar players in how they play. Chandler Cunningham South has been banging boys in the Prem. Dominated Tom Willis when he played against him. Probably thought he was going to be up for the number 8 position against him. But that's why they've gone for him. For me, Chandler Cunningham South is one of these players now that needs to kick on. And a game against Fiji, who are no walkover, everyone's second team. They're going to turn up and put a show on. But I've been really impressed with how England have conducted themselves over the last few games. Are they 8 games? 8-game win streak. And good squad rotation. Team did really well in Argentina in the summer. Easy win against Australia in 3rd or 4th gear last week. Strength in depth, even with guys like Tom Roebuck now being injured, who's been standout. You can move a Tommy Freeman to the wing. They've got 3 good fly halves to choose from. littered in the back row, experienced on the bench, Jamie George, Maritoji to come on. They're in a very good spot, a really good spot. Fiji, though, off the back of a convincing Pacific Nations Cup win. They beat Japan close, 33 points to 27 in the final. And as we know, Japan aren't running that well at the minute, but they're a physical side, pace, talent across the back. So as a neutral, if you want to watch a good game of rugby, England versus Fiji, I think England win it. I don't know how comfortable. You look at the scores of the last few times they've played, it's been close. So Fiji will be confident, but England are good. You know, England will be one of two favourites for one of two or three for the Six Nations. They're on a roll, and we have to call it how it is. So looking forward to seeing how Fiji turn up and try and carry on, I suppose, the progress that they've got as they go into the World Cup in a couple of years' time, because on their day, any given Sunday, mate, Fiji can do it. Final note to the other teams that are playing, Ireland versus Japan. I see Ireland have made a few changes. Caelan Doris is back in at 8 as captain, was really good when he came on against the All Blacks. They beat Japan comfortably. I'm afraid Japan, they've fallen off a cliff, which is a shame to see. Italy versus Australia will be very interesting. Very interesting. Italy, do I see an upset? I think I do. I'm going to go for Italy. Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to go for Italy to beat Australia at the weekend. And on Sunday, Wales versus Argentina. Oh, Wales are going to be better. They are. Under Steve Tandy, they're going to be better, but they're not going to be good enough to beat Argentina. But I think they run them close. Argentina will still have this Latino up and down, this flair which we all love, but they're going to be too good for Wales. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed. If you've got this far, you've clearly enjoyed the content. So like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I look forward to chatting to you next week. Thank you very much, everyone.